This is my Inscription of Insight Control deck. So let's go through the list real quick. We have 4 Falcon Abomination, 4 Plundering Barbarian, 4 Ardent Elementalist, 4 Mind Flayer, 4 you see a pair of Goblins, 4 Maddening Cacophony I guess, and just 4 copies of Inscription of Insight, 4 copies of Burn Down the House, 4 copies of Alron's Epiphany, 4 copies of Teleportation Circle, 4 Cave of the Frost Dragon, 4 Hall of Storm Giants, 4 Mountains, 4 Henge Gate Pathway, 4 River Glide Pathway, and 4 Needle Verge Pathway. So, playing with 24 lands, only 16 creatures, the rest are spells. So, the main combo, which I should have separated the cards for that. Here, main cards you'll need for the deck's main strategy, right? But obviously be Inscription, because this is Inscription control, right? And Teleportation Circle, so we can blink our Ardent Elementalness, so we can use her effect over and over again to grab an instant sorcery, and we're going to be grabbing Inscription of Insight over and over again. And the idea is that we want to play it with the kicker, because we get more out of it. Now, of course, we can just play. So, first off, here's the 3 abilities it has. First effect, return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. So you could do your opponent's creatures, your creatures. Typically, you use your opponent's creatures, right? They kind of use it like a board wipe. And then, like a removal spell. And then you have the second ability, scry 2, then draw 2. Sometimes I'll look at the top 2 and I'm like, oh, those are good cards, I'll keep them and draw them. Or I look at them like, oh, 2 lands, I don't need lands, put them at the bottom of my deck and draw the next 2 cards, which is really badass. That's a really good effect. I like using it. But typically I use the return part the most, just to control the board, right? Board control. And then target player creates a XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the number of cards in their hand. And of course, I'll target myself for that effect. And it plays it out in that order. So if you do the kicker, so a total of 8, you gotta make sure you have 3 blue. That's very important. Make sure you have 3 blue mana. Don't get in a scenario where you have 2 blue mana and you can't kick. Make sure you have 3 blue, and then the rest could be any, red and white. But definitely make sure there's 3 blue lands on the field. Anyway, you kick it, you get all 3 of these effects, and you want them in the order of bouncing 2 of your opponent's creatures to their owner's hands, scrying 2, right, and draw 2. That's important, right? Draw 2, and then you make a token based off of the number of cards in hands, which hopefully should be a bigger number since you did add 2, which is why you do it in that order. Because I noticed in the game, it allows you to choose the order in which you want the effects to resolve, and it's like, oh no, bounce, scry 2, draw 2, then token, so that way the token can be nice and thick, nice and big. So that's the main thing you want to do. You want to obviously clear your opponent's board, increase your hand size, and establish a board. Establish a threat on the board, which is a token. So you want all 3 effects, which is the goal, right? To get all 3 effects. But in the meantime, as soon as you have 4 mana to play this, you start using it, right? You could put a token on the field real quick. You can bounce up to 2 creatures and stall till you have 8 mana, so you can fully play this at full power with his kicker, all that good stuff. And then, of course, with Ardent and Teleportation Circle, you can just use it over and over again every turn. Infinite Tsukuyomi, as they say. So that's the main combo of the deck. Everything else here, is good tech cards. This is has a good enter the battlefield effect. Play it, take one of your opponent's creatures. And with teleportation circle, you can do that every turn. I don't have a sack outlet in here specifically, but what I do is I attack with the creatures that I get from my opponent and hope that, you know, it dies somehow, and hopefully it kills a creature in the process. And then use teleportation to blink, mind flare, and grab something else. That's how I slowly break my opponent's board down. So I use their own creatures as human shields. So that's what I do with that. Plunder Barbarian helps you ramp up. One, it destroys artifacts, which is useful. It has been there's going to be uploading gameplay right now, so it has been useful for dealing with certain artifact equipment decks and just dealing with artifacts in general. Artifact creatures, that was fun. I destroyed an artifact creature with this, so it has, you know, some extra use other than what I originally picked it. I picked it because it creates a treasure token, which helps me ramp. Right, it gets me the mana fixing. Make sure I have the colors I need for the cards that I want to play. So there'll be times where I use Plunder Barbarian to ramp me up, that, you know, to give me that treasure token, and then use it to go into a Mind Flare, you know, sooner than later. That way, so I play this on turn 3, get the treasure token, and then play a land on turn 4, and then I have 5 altogether energy that I can, you know, I mean, mana that could play this card and take something as soon as turn 4. So that's always good. Also, another thing I do, obviously, I blink this so I can keep making those treasure tokens. So I can just, you always want a lot of mana, right? So you can play all your cards, especially for when you want to play this. If it's kicker and anything else that we have in the deck that, you know, requires kicker. Yeah, this requires kicker as well. So anything that requires kicker, you know, want to increase your mana for that. Then, of course, the ability to reuse the artifact destruction is useful. In case your opponent is making treasure tokens, you can literally pop their own treasure tokens with this. So it is versatile, and it's a 2/2, not bad for a 3-drop. Then we have another 3-drop, flying. Very important to have flyers somewhere. And with Mind Flare, I definitely like to steal my opponent's flyers, because I got to be able to stop, you know, block flyers. Anything with flying, anything with reach, I typically steal, because I need that protection. I need to make sure I can block whatever I'm blocking. So this has flying, so it's very important detail to have, and it makes a 2/2's decay zombie token, which is, you know, a good sword and shield. So for 3 mana, you got a sword and a shield. And of course, you know, it's an enter battlefield, so of course we combine it with teleportation circle, and we can keep creating nice token 2/2 DK tokens that we can swing with every turn. You see, a pair of goblins serves 2 purposes. One, obviously, to make the 2/1/1 red goblin creature tokens. So, you know, good defense. It's an instant, so you can obviously play defensively. But definitely, you want to use the tokens as chump blockers. If you block with both tokens, you can take down anything that's 2 toughness. You know, that kind of stuff. Basic uses, you know, for 1/1 tokens. But the other thing is the fact that it has the charge them effect. Creatures you control get +2 power to end the turn, and this definitely is useful for when you literally get an extra turn with Alron's Epiphany, and it makes 2 1/1 blue blue birds. So if you create tokens with this, and you create tokens with that, like the zombie tokens and stuff, right? You have a good amount of them, of tokens. Play this, you know, get the extra turn, swing with everything you got, right? If you could afford this in the same turn, that'd be awesome. You know, play this and this in the same turn, so make everything strong, swing, then get an extra turn, and then, you know, swing again. With you know, they won't still be strong, but you can attack again. But what you can do, obviously, is attack with everything you got first, right? Take the extra turn, then do this. Now, of course, the tokens you make from this can't attack the turn you play this, so that's why it's useful to play this first, get the tokens, and then on the extra turn, then play this, so that way the tokens can get the extra 2 power boost, and there'll be 3 ones, so extra potential 6 damage right there flying. So your opponent has blockers, and if they don't have flying, that 6 damage is going through. So that kind of stuff. Of course, Inscription of Sight can, make a strong token already. So making it stronger is always good. So that's the kind of stuff we want to do. Burn down the house. You can see it makes 3 1/1 red devil creature tokens. So making them, and then of course they have haste. Making them and then playing this to strengthen them up to make them 3/1 attackers is always good. And then getting the extra turn and attack with them again is always good. So some synergy. Like you can set this up, attack with them. Next turn, play this to get the tokens. Attack with these. Get, take the extra turn, and on the extra turn, then play this so that way the birds and the devil tokens can attack, and that'd be 3, 5. So 3 times 5, that's 15. That's 15 potential damage right there. That line of play. So stuff to consider. Okay. Maddening Cacophony, whatever. I just call it Maddening. So this card, if you just pay the 2 to play it, your opponent mills 8 cards, which can hurt a lot of different decks. Except graveyard heavy decks, but this can hurt a lot of decks, milling them the top 8 cards. But then there's if you play with the kicker, so it's a total of 6 mana. Your opponent mills the half of their deck to the graveyard, rounded up. So if they have like 30 cards, for example, they'll mill 15. So it's more mill than just milling 8. And what's good about that is if you want to get them down to at least 15, so if they're, or at least 20, you could work with 20. So if they have 40 cards in their deck and you play this with the kicker cost and cut their deck down to 20, and then after that, if you could cut them down again, so that way they have like less than 10. You want to get them to the point like where they have like 8, and you could just play this for 2, and then just mill them off for the last ones. So if used right in the right order, and you stall long enough, right, to be able to play this multiple times or play multiple copies, or notice there's only 2 copies in the deck, so obviously we're gonna reuse them with Ardent. So if you can just getting this off, twice at least in a game is very powerful. First for 2 mana, second for 6 mana. Can drastically improve your odds against your opponent, because you're milling a lot of their good stuff, especially if it's a blue deck. Milling their counter spells and all that stuff and board wipes and all that stuff is always good. And you definitely don't want them to have their to get their epiphanies. You want those in the drop. So so then we have burn down the house. First effect, burn down the house deals 5 damage to each creature and planeswalker. That's actually a very important effect, a very useful effect. I went up against a deck that was just playing a whole bunch of planeswalkers. Pretty cool strategy, what they were doing. Definitely had a lot of advantage. I'm like, man, I really need to get rid of those planeswalkers so I can have a fighting chance. And that's where this card comes in. Very useful for planeswalker decks. And it's just a good basic board wipe. I've used this like twice in a row. I played it, then I played Ardent, got it back, played it again, and it gave me the advantage. My opponent didn't want to play any further since I burned down the house twice. And obviously after that, after using the damage effect to clear the board, I can obviously start using this to make tokens so I can attack. So it's, it has, it's very versatile. So notice these cards have more uses than you would think. Plus, notice they make tokens, which is very important. There ain't that many creatures in the deck, so being able to create tokens, just get stuff on the field that you can, attack with, deal some damage here and there, matters. That's why this pairs of goblins card is nice, because it makes them strong. So that way you make tokens, make them stronger, and get something out of them. You don't need to do 20 damage to your opponent, so your creatures don't have to be that strong. You just gotta have enough of them, make them a little strong, so they can at least do 2 or more damage, and swing, swing, swing. Speaking of swing, 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 getting extra turns so you can swing multiple times is always awesome, especially when your opponent's tapped out, their creatures and their mana's tapped out. You can just establish a board with 2 1/1 blue bird tokens with flying, which is very important to have flying. Taking an extra turn. They were smart to put the exile Elrond's Epiphany, because I definitely had plans to recycle this with Ardent, but because it has that effect that it exiled itself, it prevents that abuse that I plan to do. But using it one time is enough. I mean, using it twice is always awesome. I like it when I play, using the foretold. So I pay 2. As soon as I get a chance, as soon as turn 2 happens, and I'm not doing anything else on turn 2, I immediately foretell this, obviously, so I can play this for 6, so I can get this out sooner than later, and get that extra turn. And getting an extra turn and then playing an extra copy of this is awesome, especially if, like I said, I always try to foretold so that way I can get it. So if I get 2 copies of this, I'm definitely foretelling them twice and get both copies face down out of game, and then just start playing one after the other, and get them extra turns, make them extra plays. And of course I do stuff like Inscription of Insight, with those extra turns. I typically want to play this so I can get more value, so I can clear my opponent's board, replenish my hand, and establish a creature that I could attack with, or at least block with. And since this gives me tokens, and then this gives me tokens, it increases my defensive capabilities to stay in the game a little bit longer. And then if I get another turn after that, by playing another Epiphany, then I just, can go further from there. Definitely lots of fun getting those extra turns, and then playing Mind Flare on that extra turn, and then getting another extra turn, right, is always good. Because if you can pay 6 for this, pay 5 for that, that's a total of 11. So if you get 11 mana, bang, get an extra turn, steal something, get an extra turn. So that way, in the extra turn, whatever you steal, you can attack with it. So yeah, like that. And that's why it's important to make as many treasure tokens as possible, so that we can do something like that, be able to make that type of play, or play this for 8, and then this obviously for 6, 8, and so that's 14. So if you can produce 14 mana, you could play both of these in the same turn. Making token with this, getting clearing your opponent's board, getting 2 more cards you could play on your next turn. Then on your next turn, hopefully you get something like this, and then make the token stronger with this, or just make tokens, so you have a shield, right? Use the tokens to protect yourself while you attack with everything else you got. But the fact that this can make everything strong is always useful. So it's a lot of synergy with that stuff. The lands. Another cool thing is about getting the extra turn, right, is you untap all your lands and stuff like that. You get to play another, draw a card, play another, because you literally get another turn. Just like you get an end phase, so you can always add something from your graveyard back to your hand that you use Teleportation Circle and Ardent Element with. You can just go grab Inscription, for example. That way in your next turn, you have Inscription to play it at full power. But the man lands are useful, obviously, because you'll tap the lands to get the extra turn, do what you do with whatever you already have on the field, and then on the next turn, right, play your land, play your land, normal stuff, and then create the man lands. Here you have a 3/4 white dragon creature with flying until the end of the turn. Obviously, it having flying, it's useful. You obviously could play it on your opponent's turn and use it to block. So it's nice. So it's another way of adding a flyer. Sorry. It's another way of adding a flyer in the deck. If you really need to protect against a flyer, you can use the land for that. But if you play it on your turn, obviously you have a 3/4 that you can attack with, and you can make it stronger with this. So on that extra turn, you can literally use your lands and attack your opponent with. So there's that, and then we have Hall of Storm Giants for 6 mana, 1 blue, 5 anything. You can turn it into a 7/7 blue giant creature with a ward 3, which is nice for it to have that effect. So pretty much the 7/7 that your opponent can't target, so you don't have to worry about like a kill spell or something like that. Especially if your opponent is, because a lot of times your opponent will have like 2 lands up for like a kill spell, like a Poison the Cup or something similar to that, or just some type of damage dealing card, or even some card that just bounces something, a creature to the hand or exiled. This will make it where it will cost 3 more, right, to play it, so they won't be able to. So that's really awesome that it has that protection. So 7/7, the opponent pretty much can't kill the kill spell. And 7/7 swinging at your opponent. Take full advantage of it. This is now a legendary card, so if you have more of these and you can afford it, which, like, let's say you want to play 2 of these, you'll need 12 mana to play 2 of these. So keep that in mind. But it's pretty cool though, having 2 7/7s and swinging your opponent when they're tapped out. Bang, 14 right there. I mean, just doing 7 is enough, because your opponent should be weak enough by the time you do this to end them out with this. And even, like I said, since you got an extra turn, you got the tokens, so that's 2 damage plus the 7 damage from this. That's 9. You should be, that's almost half of your opponent's life, so they should be close to dead. So that's why I like that play. Play this, get the 2 tokens, get the extra turn, and then in the extra turn, bring this out, swing with this and the tokens for 9 damage. And if I could afford it and play this, then I can make them stronger, and this will be 6 from this, and this will be a 9, so 9, 6, 15, right there, 15 damage. So pretty simple stuff, not rocket science. 4 mountains, because red and blue deck, and I just wanted to make sure I had something I could just flat out play. Some of these do come into play tap sometimes, so gotta be careful. So I got 4 mountains. I got the blue and white land, the red and blue land, and the white and red land. So that way you have all your red, white, and blue colors, for your mana fixings. As before, you want to chart your first 2 lands. You should first 2 colors of lands you need to be charging is red and blue, obviously, so you can start playing stuff like this and get to play this or this. Start establishing something on board, playing this. Start getting some stuff on the board so you can start blocking, attacking. Basic stuff install long enough so you can, until you get to the good stuff like your Inscription, Insight, start getting value out of it. Start bouncing stuff, start drawing stuff, start making stuff. Making token, and just go from there. And that's the end of the video.